Hi everyone, and welcome into another video. This is Nicole Spohr, and today I'm sharing a couple of stitched rainbow cards. I am combining multiple products from different manufacturers for these fun cards. This is one of my very favorite techniques and something that is really easy to do. I call it Shop Your Stash, where you look through your supplies and mix and match to create truly unique cards. We're going to start with this awesome dotted rainbow die from the Stamp Market. I absolutely adore the Stamp Market. They have incredible stamps and dies and products that are just so much fun. I'm going to die cut the dotted rainbow from this 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel of smooth white cardstock. I purposely started with a bigger panel than I needed, and I'm going to trim it down to a little bit narrower. Then I'm simply going to double up some crochet thread, knot it, and stitch my rainbow rays. I like to go up and down every other hole, and then I come back the opposite way and fill in all of the open spaces. You could also just stitch it this way and have more of an open stitch kind of look. It's really whatever look you prefer. I'm going to go up and down each hole and then come back the other way. I am using red crochet thread for this first rainbow ray, and in the finished card examples you might notice that I actually started with pink. What ended up happening was 2 of the colors I used for my original rainbow I just didn't love as much as the colors I ended up using. So I'm going to replace the red and the royal blue that I used for this first panel card. I don't even know if I show the royal blue in the finished design or not in the video, but I'm just going to take some sharp embroidery scissors and snip those and remove them. I actually left it that way until I had stitched the double rainbow for the other panel, because on the other rainbow panel I did use pink and a lighter blue, and I liked it so much that I decided to swap that out, especially when I laid it next to the Lawn Fawn pattern paper that I'm using. I really liked the pink and lighter blue better. Next we're going to do a little orange and go up and down every hole and then come back the other way just like we did before. Stitching does take a little bit of time just because you're actually doing some hand stitching here. I would definitely recommend maybe die cutting several panels and having them available to do while you're sitting and watching TV in an evening, or maybe you sit and listen to an audiobook or a podcast or something like that. It's a great activity if you're sitting in the car and waiting or whatever you have going on. It's just a great little activity to pull out and work on when you have a moment. I always think that I should have them available to work on because I'm always sitting and waiting on a kid, it seems like, and I never do. So I have die cut several stitching panels that I'm hoping to work on, and I'm just going to tuck them into my purse or my vehicle so that I have them there and I can work on making card backgrounds when I am not, or when I have nothing else going on. Next we've got some yellow. A question I do get a lot whenever I share a stitching video like this is where I get the thread. And this thread is all from Hobby Lobby. I usually find it in an end cap. I do believe it's called crochet thread. It's a little bit thicker, and I love how it looks on cards especially. So I use it a lot for things like this. If you don't have this, embroidery floss is going to work just as well, and you can just use several strands of it, however many you want, for as thick of stitched lines as you want to stitch your cards with. It's really just whatever you have and you like. I tend to try to use what I have on hand, and because I have so many colors of this, I use it a lot for my stitching projects. On the back, I just thread it back and forth underneath the ray I just stitched to secure it to the back of the panel so that I don't have to worry that it comes unraveled anywhere. Next, we've got some green, up and down, all the way across. I would say stitching one of these rainbows probably takes somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes, depending on if you have anything else going on or whatever. But just to sit and stitch it, it does take a little bit of time. I also very much try to keep the thread as flat as possible on the front. We've got one more rainbow ray and then we can start pulling it all together. Plus I want to share with you how I lined up the rainbows for the double rainbow panel on the second card. We almost have our little rainbow all stitched. I wanted to leave one of them in so you could see the entire process for stitching a rainbow. Now for the double rainbow, I just repeated this process twice. There are going to be some little knots and things on the back, and my best tip for disguising those so that your panel lies flat is to kind of frame up the stitching part of this with foam adhesive, because you can back it with that and it'll lay nice and flat and you won't have any funny marks. I'm going to find the center of my cardstock panel at 2 3/4, and then I'm going to just measure up 1/4 inch from that center line. Then I'm going to go ahead and just lie my rainbow right there, tape it in place, and run it through my die cutting machine. So I measured at 2 3/4 inches, and then I made a little mark 1/4 inch up and 1/4 inch below, and that's the line I'm using to line up my rainbow. I'm going to go ahead and line my second rainbow up with the other little line there and run it through my die cutting machine again. This is going to leave a nice little open space between the two rainbows. I'm going to erase those little pencil lines now, and then I will stitch up this panel just like I did the other one. And then I can start putting these together and adding some fun little embellishments. I'm going to put some adhesive down the sides of a top fold card base, and then I've trimmed these scraps of rainbow Lawn Fawn pattern paper. I don't have a full sheet of this left, so I'm using up every little piece. And I don't really want to waste a bunch underneath the center panel, so I'm just lining the sides of my background panel with this rainbow paper. Then I'm going to flip my panel over, and this is where I add that foam adhesive to the back of the panel, and I just kind of frame up the stitching area so it lies nice and flat. And then I'm going to adhere that to the center of my card. These cute little clouds are from a Simon Says stamp set called Surfs Up, and I am going to die cut those from smooth white cardstock and adhere them with foam adhesive to the ends of both sides of the rainbow. And that just makes the perfect little finishing touch. I've got a scrap of black cardstock here that I'm going to stamp a couple of sentiments on from the Simon Says Stamp Say It All Friend stamp set. We're going to use a paper hug for you and a friend is one of the greatest gifts in life. I think these are fantastic sentiments. I'm going to stamp both of these on some black cardstock using a clear embossing ink and heat emboss with white embossing powder. Then I'm going to die cut these phrases with one of the Nested Banners Simon Says Stamp dies. For the long phrase, I'll use the long rectangular die, and for the shorter, a paper hug for you, I'm going to use the notched banner die. These are fantastic for die cutting your sentiments to add to your cards. I use these all the time and love them. Once I have the sentiment die cut, I'm going to back this little strip with some foam adhesive and pop it below the clouds on the card. The black really makes the white sentiment pop and ties into the white background in the main panel of this card design. We have a couple more things that we're going to add to this card to finish it all off. Included in the Surf's Up stamp set is a sun, and it's kind of a wonky round shape. It's not perfectly round. I'm going to ink that up with the Simon Says Stamp Sunshine ink and stamp that on a scrap of smooth white cardstock and then die cut it with the coordinating die. We will adhere this to our card with some foam adhesive, and it really finishes off our little rainbow scene perfectly. Now, after I add this sunshine to the card, I noticed that in the Surf's Up stamp set, there's some little seagull images of birds flying in the air. I really felt like those would be a great little finishing touch to this scene, so we will stamp 3 of those around the sun, kind of up above the rainbow with some black ink. I love finding little ways to add cute little finishing touches to a card. In addition to the seagulls, which I haven't stamped quite yet, I played around with these heart accents from Honeybee Stamps. I ended up only adding one of these hearts down below the sentiment, as I felt the other ones kind of took away from the cute design of the card, and this is really where those seagulls came into play, and I added those instead, which I really like. So we will glue down the heart below our nested banner with our sentiment using a little Lawn Fawn glue tube liquid adhesive. And really, your card could be finished now if you want to. These are all just additional ideas for finishing it off. Now we've already added the sunshine with foam adhesive. So I'm going to place that seagull kind of down near the bottom of an acrylic block so that it will stamp nicely there on the background. I stamped a trio of these to finish the card design. For the double rainbow card, we are going to again have a couple of clouds from the Surf's Up stamp set, and we're attaching our background panel just like we did before, the rainbow paper down both sides, the panel attached with foam adhesive, and then we're going to put one cloud on one rainbow and one on the other, and you'll see what I mean here in a minute. So we'll attach one rainbow and we're going to tuck the sunshine back behind it. Again, we're attaching these with foam adhesive. The sun I'm actually going to attach with liquid adhesive tucked behind this cloud on the first rainbow. And then we will tuck the other cloud on the other side, but on the upside down rainbow. Then we're going to take our sentiment strip and put foam adhesive just in the center. The reason being is that the other two ends, or the two ends, overlap the clouds which have already been adhered with foam adhesive. So we can put liquid adhesive behind those two sides so that they lie flat against the clouds. This little sentiment strip is going to break up the two rainbows. Just like before, we're going to finish this card design with a Honeybee Stamps Candy Hearts red heart accent and a couple of stamped seagulls up above the sunshine. I hope these cards have inspired you to try some stitching on your next card making project. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these stitched rainbow cards. The supplies I used to create these cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more cards that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel to never miss a card making or paper crafting video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.